boast an acquaintanceship at first hand with any members of the nobility, I have read the diatribes of Rita and Miss Corelli, and have also frequently seen impecunious peers in social comedies welcome proposals from the most impossible outsiders, when sufficiently wealthy, with positive effusion, so that I felt pretty sure of my ground. The stranger, however, replied that my objection merely showed that I must temporarily have forgotten the extreme fastidiousness that notoriously characterizes the house of Stonystairs. I admitted that I had, and he resumed his story. Needless to say that Harald endeavoured to overcome her decision by all the eloquence at his command. He urged that a true heart could beat as faithfully without its H as with it. He reminded her that the very letter on which she laid such unnecessary stress modestly ignored its own existence, since it was universally pronounced H, not H. All was in vain. Unless, or until, she told him, he could acquire a complete mastery of the elusive aspirate, he must never hope to call her his. He left her with the fixed resolve to win her, whatever it might cost him. He put himself under several professors of elocution. They taught him to elocute, it is true, but not one of them could instill a solitary H into him, and elocution without aspirates is as incapable of soaring to the sublime as a cherub with its wings clipped. There came an hour when he realized that he had exhausted all human aid, and that henceforth his whole hope lay in seeking assistance from the powers of evil. By the merest chance he saw on a railway bookstall a volume of one of the most admirable ABC series, entitled The ABC of the Black Art, by a black artist, with an appendix containing 15 different formulae for invoking fiends. He purchased the book, for to one of his vast means a shilling net was the merest trifle, took it home, and locking himself into his study, traced a pentagram on the floor as directed, and set to work to raise some unemployed fiend who should help him to attain his ends. For whole days and nights he laboured without conspicuous success. Occasionally some evil spirit with nothing worse to do would obey his summons, but no sooner did they hear the purpose for which they had been invoked than, whether in disgust at its utter triviality or to conceal their own incompetence, they indulged in demonstrations of fury so violent as almost to frighten him out of his wits. But the 15th and last formula produced a more satisfactory result. This time the fiend who answered his call was both less appalling of appearance and more obliging in disposition. In comparison with his predecessors, he was almost undersized, and though inky, he was sympathetic and even resourceful. I suppress his name for obvious reasons, but he seemed to see no difficulty whatever in the affair. According to him, all Harald had to do was to procure certain articles, of which he gave him a list, and to be at a given spot by the following midnight. There the fiend undertook to meet him with a magic type foundry, and together they would turn out as many H's as possible before cockcrow. It is conceivable that the fiend may have been inspired by reminiscences of the opera of Der Freischütz, or it may have been his own idea entirely. That we shall never know now. After ascertaining that he would not be in any way prejudicing his future prospects by compliance, Harald made a note of the appointment, and the demon left. The next day was spent in collecting the necessary skulls and braziers, etc., and shortly after 11 p.m, Hipperholme chartered a four-wheeler to convey himself and his occult paraphernalia to the midnight rendezvous. The precise spot I prefer not to indicate further than by mentioning that it was just where 4 crossroads met, and just outside the radius. You may readily believe that on that journey Harald's heart was not altogether free from apprehensions. He could not but be aware that proceedings, which might well escape remark in the seclusion of a German forest, would inevitably attract attention in a London suburb. Suppose he and the fiend were brought up before a London magistrate for this...